Well, good morning, and welcome everyone to the First Unitarian Church of Oakland. My name is Laurel Liefert. I use the pronouns she, her, hers, and I serve as the minister of this passionate, committed, caring congregation, justice seekers with love at our center. I want to give a warm greeting to all of you who are here in the sanctuary today, and you probably know that we do have people on Zoom, so I'll ask you to just turn around, face the bright lights for a moment, and welcome to all of you who are joining us virtually. You too are welcome here. So this is a come as you are congregation. We are an intentionally inclusive faith that affirms all people who have dignity and worth. We are a people who know that we do not have to think alike in order to love alike. And so whether you come today with joy in your heart, or with tears, or with fear, please know that you are welcome here. We bid you welcome, you who come with weary spirits seeking rest. We bid you welcome, you who have found here a home for your spirit, who find in this people a family. And to the newcomers, a special warm welcome to you. So whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey in this lifetime, you are welcome here. For our land acknowledgement, we are aware that people all over the world today continue to struggle to claim their sacred lands. I just returned recently from Minneapolis, where I discovered that the Dakota and the other indigenous people there had a place where the rivers converged. It was the Mississippi River and the Minnesota River converged, and in their creation story, that was the place of creation. And then in 1819, the US Army built a fort on that sacred spot, and then I don't know what year, but then there was a Whipple building that was built that is now used as ICE detention. So I mean, it's just so vivid to me about the sacred lands being violated. It's a covenant that is violated. So here in Oakland, we acknowledge the land called Hushan and the people of this land, the Lishon Ohlone people, who have an ancestral relationship with the land, with the water, with the plants. And the Ohlone people are still here. And although we are not the first ones who settled on this Ohlone land, we still benefit from it. And so my wish is that may we have the courage and the will and the humility to heal the broken covenant that we inherited. So you'll see on the slide that one of the ways that we can help right this wrong is by promoting the Shumi land tax, which gives money to the Segorite Land Trust, which has been our half-plate recipient in some of the months past, and they will be again. So we encourage you all to learn more about the confederated villages of the Lishon Ohlone people. I am so excited today to introduce you to Reverend Greg Ward. So Greg, do you want to stand up and say hello to the congregation? So I asked my colleague, Greg Ward, to preach today on our monthly topic of resilience. So Greg is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist who actually became a member here back in the 90s while he was attending seminary at the Star King School for the Ministry. He knew Jan and Rob Eller Isaacs, who were the ministers here for many years, and also a couple of members here. I know Lila Ibrahim, who actually he knew from growing up at the de Bennett Bell Pines in Southern California. So since then, so much has changed in the world, in Unitarian Universalism, in this church, and in Greg himself. But he says the faith that gets him through is the firm belief that although evil is real, it is no match for the next generation of badass revolutionaries who, for their children's sake, are learning to turn hate into love and to turn greed into giving. So again, if you will give a warm welcome to Reverend Greg Ward.
Good morning. Would you join me in saying our chalice lighting words and hand motions if you know them? We light this chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. May it remind us of the divine spark in all of creation, of the power of love to heal what is broken and to be grateful for life's blessings each day. The Soft, Stubborn Practice by Reverend Michelle Collins. Come to this time of worship, worn, weary, or wide awake. In this gathering, we acknowledge the pressure of living, the tender ache of persisting through uncertainty, the courage of continuing when clarity is distant. Yet here we are, still breathing, still reaching, still becoming. Today, let us embody resilience together, not as armor, but as the soft, stubborn practice of returning to ourselves, to one another, to the work of love. In one voice, let us say, "Come, let us worship together." For our peace candle, I've chosen the words of Toni Morrison. You do not deserve love, regardless of the suffering you have endured. You do not deserve love because somebody did you wrong. You do not deserve love just because you want it. You can only earn, by practice and careful contemplations, the right to express it, and you have to learn how to accept it. Together we say, peace is possible. The words of Audre Lorde for our Black Lives Matter candle. In our work and in our living, we must recognize that difference is a reason for celebration and growth, rather than a reason for destruction. Together we say, Black Lives Matter. Would you now rise as you are able in body and spirit to join us in our hymn?
Reverend Greg and I have a story to tell. We have two stories. It's a twofer. It's 2 in 1. So come on in. And there's pictures up there. But the reason you're down here is because we're going to be a little bit animated, and you get to be part of the energy. And then after the story, we're going to go right up the aisle, and we're going to invite the people on the edges of the aisle to make that bridge with their arms when we sing the kids out.
One of my favorite things in the world to do is to tell stories. And I'm going to tell you one this morning that is near and dear to my heart. Has anyone ever heard the story about the hugging tree? No.
A couple of these people have heard it, yeah.
Some have heard it. Don't give it away. It was written about 10 years ago by Jill Neimark, and wonderful illustrations, which you can see on the screen, by Nicole Wong.
Is this the one about the little tree that found itself on the edge of a rocky cliff where no tree should ever be?
Exactly.
And it said to itself, well, I'm here, and I can't change that part, so I'm just going to do my best to make this work.
Right, so it reached down and dug deep, inch by inch, through the rocky cliff and put down roots.
Yeah, and the clouds and the waves and the moon all noticed how hard that tree was trying and beginning, and they were rooting for it.
Yes, and they all watched as the wind and the rain and the cold all came and tested the tree, and they could see that the little tree's spirit was wavering, but they encouraged it. And remember what they said?
Yes, they reminded the tree that surviving setbacks is part of every life. That means when things get difficult, you get through them. And they said, we wax, we wane, we ebb, we flow, we cycle through from full to thin, and when we're done, we start again.
Right, and that's how the tree learned resilience.
But it did look very sad.
Yeah.
So sad, in fact, it caught the attention of a young person, like one of yourselves.
Right, and that person noticed the tree's roots were all exposed.
That means they were out of the dirt. They didn't have dirt around them. So they knew if they didn't do something that the tree would never be what it was meant to be.
Right, so every day they carried a small pail of soil up to the tree to cover its roots.
And they made a path, planting flowers along the way.
Until the tree got to be exactly what it was always meant to be.
Isn't that a great story?
It really is, except that's not the story we're going to tell today.
We kind of told it,
Well,
but not really.
yeah.
Get the book, it's good. But that brought up a story, and we brought up that story so we could tell you this next story.
Right, which is a similar story also about resilience, because we all need resilience right now.
We really do, because it's resilience that helps us through challenges and even heartbreak. We'll get you in a second.
Oh. And there's a lot of heartbreak going on right now, isn't there?
There is. And you know, it's not just what's inside us that helps us through, it's what's around us.
Right, like one another, other people around us, communities, places like this church.
Like a church.
Right. Which is why we thought we'd tell you a story about a church that taught resilience and helped people learn resilience.
So that's what we'll call this story the Hugging Church. But I bet you can guess which church we're really talking about, right?
We come to this church because it is filled with stories of resilience.
Like the guy who founded the church. He intended to start a Presbyterian church, but the Presbyterians convicted him of heresy for believing people deserved a second chance at salvation. So he started a Unitarian church.
And in the 1890s, when this church called the first woman to serve a parish in California 25 years before women had the right to vote.
This church was built in the Gilded Age where great wealth lived next to great poverty, both unchanged by the other. But this church built a bridge, giving relief to refugees and earthquake victims in 1906.
And they took out all of these pews and installed beds for the influenza epidemic of 1918.
And after the Great Depression, when attendance plummeted, Unitarian headquarters sent a minister here with the instructions to close this church. But instead, he fell in love with it and instead worked to keep it open.
Right. And when so many others in the 70s and 80s were part of white flight to the suburbs, people here chose to stay and grow where they were planted.
Like the minister who put his call on the line, inviting a gay congregation to use this space even after the board voted against it.
This is a place where people whose voice had been taken away by other parts of society could come and not only be seen and heard, but given roles of leadership.
It's a place where when the going gets tough, people put roots deep and find wings to fly.
We find resilience these days because we have places that teach it.
Stories like the one of the tree
and the one of this church
teach us how to support things to grow where they're planted, especially when they find themselves on the edge of society amidst questions of, why are we here?
But what better place is there for people of resilience than to be planted right on the edge of everything that's possible?
Nice story.
It'll do. You had a question?
Okay.
Okay.
If you remember, you can ask it upstairs, okay? Thanks for holding that. So we're going to ask you to pull up roots from where you are here, and we're going to sing and go out this way, and Ingrid and Domingo will lead you upstairs.
Now that you're seated, you may rise again and take a moment to greet your neighbor. Remember to come back to your seats when the music starts. Thank you, choir. I have chosen to read a poem by Audre Lorde, as it was her birthday on the same day as that of Toni Morrison, February 18th. I honor her memory for Black History Month. While writer and poet Toni Morrison is quite familiar to many of us, I was not as familiar with Lorde. Audre Lorde was an African-American poet, author, and feminist activist. She spoke up about racial and gender injustices, remaining resilient with the many societal challenges of the 60s and later. A litany for survival. For those of us who live at the shoreline, standing upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone, for those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, who love in doorways, coming and going, in the hours between dawns, looking inward and outward, at once, before and after, seeking a now that can breed futures like bread in our children's mouths, so their dreams will not reflect the death of ours. For those of us who were imprinted with fear, like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk, for by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hoped to silence us. For all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises and we are afraid it may not remain, when the sun sets, we are afraid it might not return in the morning. And when our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. And when our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may not eat again. When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid what love will never return. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard, nor welcomed. But when we remain silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering, We were never meant to survive. Lord speaks to us of not being silenced despite fear, loneliness, despair. We won't be here forever. Now is the time to speak up and act. Life can be hard, cruel, and scary at times. Many have not had a sense of safety and security in their lives, but we must be resilient. If we speak and act from our values of love, kindness, and compassion, we can combat injustice and suffering. I would now like to share another story about trees. A friend recently shared this story about the Biosphere 2 in Tucson, Arizona. It comes from a blog called Heads and Tails, authored by the former head of school for Marin Academy over in San Rafael, named Travis Brownlee. In a research study, scientists created a miniature version of our planet to study how the planet's living systems work. Tree growth in Biosphere 2 provided a scientific discovery. While trees initially grew more rapidly than those in the wild due to controlled, perfect conditions, they would eventually collapse under their own weight before fully maturing. Scientists discovered that the failure of these trees was caused by the absence of wind inside the facility. Wind creates mechanical stress that triggers trees to produce stress wood, which strengthens the trunk and forces the roots to grow deeper. Without wind to push against them, the trees remained fragile and failed to develop their structural integrity needed to support their own increasing height. Without the wind, the tree dies. Similarly, the adversity we face strengthens us in ways comfort never could. Just like the trees in Biosphere 2 needed the wind, living with some stress is your wind. Embrace it. It's making you stronger. This makes me think of the Japanese art of kintsugi, the art of putting broken pottery pieces back together with gold, silver, and platinum. Reverend Laurel spoke about this in an earlier service. In embracing flaws and imperfections, you can create an even stronger and more beautiful piece of art. We can embrace our wounds as part of our path of evolution and see them as opportunities to be more resilient. This final quote is from the Soul Matters curriculum used for our worship services. Your scars show the path traveled, and you are more beautiful and stronger for having been broken. When we are pushed down or faced with adverse situations, we can bounce back, be buoyant, resilient, especially in the arms of loving community. I love to envision being strengthened in the interdependent arms of all of you. Together we create our stress wood.
Good people, let us pause. Let us put down our to-do lists, resist the million things pushing us headlong into the next moment. Let's instead pull out and read through our to-be lists, which only know love and only asks us to breathe. Take a deep breath. and again. Make space in your soul for everything holy, for joy, for gratitude, for hope. And let us make space in our soul for those things which take our breath away: sorrow, worry, loss. In a moment, a bell will sound which invites what is most alive in us to meet the holy carried into this space on other hearts. Speak the names of those who you want held in this loving embrace of this resilient place and people. And for those who are in the room on Zoom, we invite you to write what you would like to have shared in the chat. An embracing meditation. These are some of the names that we lift up in our hearts. Pat St. Ange and Wilson Riles Jr. And our response: we hold them in our care. Reverend Jacqueline Duhart, we hold them in our care. Congratulations to Reverend Kevin and Noah, who are getting married today after 20 years being together. And we say, we hold them in our care. Gratitude that Carol Bain has been given a date for surgery to repair her torn rotator cuff. We hold them in our care. And for Daphne Muse, we hold her in our care. We lift up in our hearts all of those who are living in incarceration. We hold them in our care. For Kitty Hughes, who continues to improve after pneumonia, we hold her in our care. And celebrating the joyous Olympic skater, Oakland resident Elisa Liu, we hold her in our care. Let us join together in the spirit of prayer. God of love, of radical inclusion and belonging, who understands and accepts everything, even our weary hearts, who have no doubt read too many bad headlines this week. Sometimes we are just too tired to be confident and unafraid. Teach us to be resilient. Hurt and fear have settled upon us and leave us guarded. Give us good company. Remind us that miracles can happen. Hurt can become hope. Hate can become love. Better yet, remind us that we are miracle makers, placed among people who need us. Infuse our tenderness with courage. Help us embody the kind of faith that loves everything, that believes everyone is worthy, deserving of salvation and belonging, and that no matter how much fear we've known or how many of the promises we made to honor our own belovedness that we've forgotten to commit to memory, we are among people who love us. Teach us to live on the edge of our own becoming. Amen, and blessed be. I am guessing that most of us have read a lot of news lately, which make it hard for us to be calm and resilient. Maybe about the growing police state or the relentless chipping away of the Constitution and due process and democracy. So please forgive me for adding one more tragic news story to your list, but I think it might be worth our attention. It is an article from a rather obscure paper, the Holy Herald, a periodical for the light-hearted Lutheran. The headline reads, "Hundreds hospitalized after new hymn introduced at church." In Huron, South Dakota, this past Sunday, hundreds were hospitalized in the wake of a disastrous hymn rollout at St. Timothy's Lutheran Church. Recklessly acting in a way contrary to all Lutheran sensibilities, Pastor Norman Schroeder inserted a previously unsung hymn, "Through the Blood We Come," into the church service. I remember paging to hymn 372 and thinking that it looked unfamiliar, said helpless victim Dolores Hamilton from her hospital bed. My heart started pounding in my chest. My vision narrowed. As we started singing, my hands trembled uncontrollably. I felt lightheaded. I don't even think I made it through the first stanza before I passed out. First responders were overwhelmed by the chaos and extended all the way back to the vestibule. EMTs struggled to get past the terrified mob streaming out of the church. Inside the sanctuary, it was grim. Hundreds lay catatonic with their hands still over their ears in vain attempt to shut out the unfamiliar tune. Most were too incapacitated to assist their more gravely injured Lutherans. We haven't seen such a tragedy like this since the Reformed Church tried to introduce a contemporary version of "Nearer My God to Thee," lamented Police Chief Richard Johnson. Thank goodness we tasered the organist. The death toll could have truly been catastrophic. The investigation is still only beginning, but many common sense Lutherans want answers. Why didn't Pastor Schroeder run his plans through the worship committee? Why wasn't the hymn introduced as a prelude or an offering? Why weren't congregants warned the standard 3 months in advance that a new hymn was being introduced? Only a fair, impartial investigation and the immediate excommunication and hanging of Pastor Schroeder could actually redeem this tragedy. Poor Pastor Schroeder. He meant well, right? I mean, that's probably what most of his flock said as they filed past his grave. Even though everyone at the wake did admit that the hypnotic wailing molded into a relentless 4/4 time with a slightly minor key was an ingenious way to depict the gates of hell. Poor Pastor Schroeder. But you know who I really feel sorry for? The guy who comes after Pastor Schroeder. The next pastor, or in church parlance, the after pastor. The after pastor is the minister who comes after they finish excommunicating all the members of the music committee. When the debris is cleared and the scorch marks around the bomb crater cleaned up and the pulpit put back in place, the after pastor comes in with naive optimism, knowing nothing of the tragedy. The history of the church on the webpage is never updated. I mean, to talk about something like this is really poor form. But the sideways glances directed at the chancel are unmistakable whenever the music is announced, and the hundreds of eyes staring over the new pastor's shoulders whenever hymns are being selected. Trust broken and left unrepaired is a difficult thing. This sermon is about repair and resilience. It's about rebuilding what is broken. It is wisdom that we all need. But I warn you, working through broken trust is hard. It requires getting lost, being willing to feel uncomfortable and confused. It means sifting through all the ivory and the wood splinters of the beloved organ that was blown up in the fight. Because real trust never arrives bright and shiny new from the manufacturer. Let me go deeper by sharing an ancient wisdom story that I just made up. It's about a couple, we'll call them Adam and Eve, who were married. And I say were in the tenuous past-present sense that sits uneasily in our hearts. They were stuck, wanting to find their way back or forward, but not knowing the way. See, sometime back, Eve had an affair, and Adam was devastated. The affair was a mistake, and Eve knew it immediately, and it didn't end with her being caught. She ended it and confessed the whole thing. She felt terrible and apologized for the pain that she could see in Adam. She clearly felt regret and remorse, and she attentively allowed time and space for trust to return. But you know, it didn't. Adam's tears and his sullenness didn't stop. The dis-ease and the doubt and the depression that swept in lingered. They both recognized that the event was a turning point in their lives, a point where the old relationship was at an end and where a new one could begin if they could figure out how. Building, losing, and regaining trust is a prominent theme in every human story. It is as old as Adam and Eve, and it is by no means exclusively applied to issues of romantic infidelity. Marriage and family counselor Terry Real calls peekaboo the oldest known trust exercise in the human era. It prepares our youngest to go from connection to disconnection to repair. and the wisest of infants remember this exercise much later in life when it's really needed. But many won't. Neuroscientists have found that the human brain is conditioned to check for safety at least once every 4 seconds. And because those checks don't always turn out perfectly, repair is regular and essential as part of our relationship maintenance. But more and more people are doing less and less repair, and it shows. Edelman International Communications, which reports on levels of trust in 28 countries with 34,000 respondents, just released their 2026 report. In the US, trust in government to, quote, do what is right is currently at 17%, down 25% in the last 3 years. And it's not just government. We've lost trust in corporate America, in NGOs, in social services, in court systems. The umbrellas of society keeping the most vulnerable from the rain of harm are losing trust from their constituency. One of the most alarming graphics, do we have a graphic that we can show? One of the most alarming graphics in the report is this one. It shows over the last 5 years our growing descent from conflict to polarization to grievance to insularity. These declining modes of resilience demonstrate how difficult it is to engage after we have felt hurt. Insularity is the condition of retreating so far into our personal bomb shelter that we abandon all efforts at repairing trust. You can end the slide. This is a problem. Quoting the preface of the Edelman Report on Trust, it says this: trust is key to people's sense of safety, security, generosity, confidence, cooperation, and the impulse to be kind. Trust is correlated with increased civic participation, cooperation, and resilience in the wake of disasters. It is also a primary factor correlated with increased health, happiness, and intelligence. And the restoration of collective trust is a key reason behind people taking a stance against inequality, illegal activities, and corruption. Practically every researcher studying trust has concluded that it is one of the highest determinants of individual and community success and well-being. End quote. Adam and Eve went to counseling. In a short time, it became clear that the pain ran deep and that Adam was mired in it. They had been happy once, and it wasn't that Adam didn't want that happiness back, he just didn't know how to get there. Over time, it became apparent that Adam's struggle wasn't in trusting Eve, it was in trusting anyone and anything. As they brought the full arc of their relationship into the room, they discovered that Adam's struggle to regain trust didn't begin at Eve's affair, but much earlier. He shared memories of being a child and stories of his time as a baby where his parents were often preoccupied with other things. They were unavailable or inconsistent in anticipating and responding to his needs for attention and affection, play, or safety. He remembered being bullied at school and having teachers and peers fail to step in and support. In just a few sessions, he was able to recall that trust had been broken in a million little ways before he ever started dating. Adam's response to each disappointment was to try and forget it as fast as he could. But, he couldn't. Because the primary reason that for each instant he tried to forget, had important lessons to teach him. In his avoidance, he never got around to processing the fears or insecurities that came from the hurt, and he wound up learning to become cynical and fortifying his protective armor instead of how to rebuild trust. And the real tragedy, over time, those fears and insecurities created a barrier between himself and his own inherent worth. As a young adult, he had relationships, but none went very deep. When he met Eve, he allowed himself to believe that she was different, that she could be that bridge to his inherent worth, and he could finally forget all of his previous disappointments. But Eve's affair brought up such a backlog of unprocessed hurt, it felt to Adam that he was facing a psychic tsunami, too overwhelming to re-enter the relationship. And at first, he thought it was the affair that made the reconciliation so hard, but therapy revealed it was the accumulation of old hurts stored in his muscle memory. Eve was simply the after-pastor to Adam's pain. What's more, they discovered that part of what preceded Eve's affair was her confusion around feeling trapped. She had lots of friends, but Adam didn't. She seemed to be his only source of real connection, and when she extended herself out into the world, she could feel Adam's discomfort. A lack of trust sometimes came across in a way that would grate on her and make her feel like she was being held captive, like she was living in a container too small. Cultivating resilience in our world, in our relationships, depends upon our ability to find it in ourselves. In the words of professor, therapist, and author David Rico, some of us employ trust easily and appropriately because we had safe and secure caretakers in our past. Many of us, however, have had a somewhat checkered experience of trust dating back to before we can remember. Our parents were mostly trustworthy, but sometimes failed us. A few of us were so betrayed and abused that we lost our ability to calibrate and apply trust appropriately and reliably. We need help, because without resilience, most of our adult relationships are just one long, painful episode of The Bachelorette. Betrayals and drama abounding, but it doesn't have to be this way. The other thing that the Edelman report revealed is that even when trust has dried up on a large, overarching corporate level, it is reinvested and resown at the local level. Trust is invested with people who are close to us, with friends, with neighbors, especially with intentional communities like ones that we have a history where people promise to us to welcome the stranger in us and to love the hell out of this world. This morning in the story, Jeff and I called you the hugging church because for some reason, the people who come here always wind up believing it's possible to turn hurt into hope and hate into love. It's not because your problems are small. Lord knows you have problems. It's because your faith is resilient. Maybe it's the influence of all the ancestors that are living into you. Or maybe it's the influence of the sower who looks down upon this room that is sowing seeds of possibility and love in you. Or maybe it is the echoes of Vivekananda chanting universal love through these rooms. I don't know. But I do know you can trust repair and resilience if you are willing to show up. Show up empty-handed and open-hearted. Show up laying your stories of struggle before the people who have promised to care about you. It is in such showing up that grievances within you shrink before all of the love that is within you. You are all after pastors for each other. Eve showed up, and she kept showing up. Even though it felt sometimes like the funeral for their relationship would go on forever, she showed up not out of guilt or obligation, but out of love, and out of a certainty that the life that she wanted was with Adam. And part of the possibility she envisioned depended on her learning to forgive and trust herself enough to be resilient in the moments where she didn't get the trust she felt she deserved. And part of it depended on Adam forgiving and trusting himself to extend the trust that would become the kintsugi of their relationship. Trust is like love. It begins with ourselves. If we can't love or trust ourselves, we wind up looking pretty awkward and uncomfortable trying to love and trust others. Or as the African proverb says, beware the naked man who offers you a shirt. Brené Brown developed an anatomy of trust for her book, Braving the Wilderness. In it, she compares resilience to the many who hold on to and sow distrust in the world. She writes, "There is no greater threat to the critics and cynics and fearmongers than those who are willing to fall because we have learned how to rise. With skinned knees and bruised hearts, we choose owning our stories of struggle over hiding, over hustling, over pretending. When we deny our stories, they define us. When we run from struggle, we are never free. So we turn toward truth and look it in the eye. We will not be characters in our stories, not villains, not victims, not even heroes. We are the authors of our lives. We write our own daring endings. We craft love from heartbreak, compassion from shame, grace from disappointment, courage from failure. Showing up is our superpower. Story is our way home. Truth is our song. We are the brave and the brokenhearted. We are rising strong." Poor Pastor Schroeder. He and St. Timothy's were done in by believing that they were no better than the worst mistakes that they have ever made, and that our pain and disillusionment are evidence of not mattering. But it is from listening carefully and writing different endings to our stories that we learn that our pain does not stem from bad hymns in church or the people who choose them. Indeed, we come to communities just like this to learn a new song, the one that was written in our hearts at our birth, that tells us we were born to love and we are resilient to disappointment. For it is here that we craft love from heartbreak, compassion from shame, and courage from failure. And it is here that we learn that showing up is our superpower. And with abundant love, the church says as one, Amen.
Thank you, Greg. Now is the time of our offering. We sit here together in the loving embrace of community. We are blessed with a beautiful historic building which requires our love and care. Please give as you are able. If this is your first time here, please let the basket pass. You are our guest. Our half-plate recipient this month is the Minnesota Together Fund. The Minnesota Together Fund was created by a church in Minnesota as a source of mutual aid, the voluntary collaborative exchanges of resources and services for common benefit. When you make a contribution to the Minnesota Together Fund, you pool your resources with Minnesotans across the state who are loving our neighbors in real time. Will the ushers please come forward?
Righteous.
Please join us in saying the words on the screen to bless our offering.
Hello, I am not Chris Palm. Michael Schaefer, I'm a member of the board of directors of this church. Sunday pulpit announcements. Number 1, join us in Venti Hall for our monthly community potluck after the service today. Number 2, the church's Committee on Shared Ministry has released their annual survey and is asking for everyone, friends, members, and visitors, to provide responses verbally by stopping by one of their listening stations. The first one will be today at noon at 1 p.m. in Star King. Other sessions will be held throughout March, both in person and online. Number 3, last Friday, February 19th, was the day of remembrance for the signing of Executive Order 9066, which ordered the U.S. military to forcibly remove and incarcerate those of Japanese ancestry. The human rights and civil liberties of over 100,000 people were violated, including those of the families of church members Donna Fujioka, Susan Ito, and Mary Lane. In remembrance, they and the Justice Council invite you to the 2026 Day of Remembrance Vigil that will be held this Wednesday, February 25th morning in San Francisco. Number 4, this Tuesday on Zoom, the Board of Trustees will hold its monthly public meeting at 6:45 p.m. The link is in the Chalice Chatter. Number 5, visitors and newer members, don't miss the grand tour of the whole church highlighting its architectural and historical features, led by Emily Stoper and Steffi Panett on March 1st at 12 noon. Meet here in Hamilton Hall. Newcomers, we are so glad to have you here today. Right after the service ends, please meet Emily Stoper in the front of the pulpit for a 10-minute personalized welcome where you can learn more about the church. And finally, number 6, the worship team is starting to plan for our volunteer-led summer services. If you're interested in volunteering, please talk to Reverend Laurel soon. Thank you.
We are now, please rise as you are able and in body and spirit for the closing hymn. We will now extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Friends, in my church, we do it this way. Put a hand on your heart, and one that reaches out to the world, that connects you to the promise that is made of all humanity. You are part of the resilience that we all need. And because you're part of the promise, you are infused with the blessing of turning hurt into hope, hate into love, and greed into giving. May this be the promise that you carry forth on this day to the world that needs you. Amen.
I hope, there we go. You know, I wanted to lift up the choir being resilient because they expected a soloist. And so thank you, Susan and Renee and Crescendo Choir, for being so resilient, because that was beautiful, beautiful music today. And thank you, Greg, for blessing us with your message, which is very timely and timeless, ancient and present. And so I just want to say, over my head, I feel gladness in the air as we move forward together, with hope in our hearts, rebuilding trust day by day, relationship by relationship. And so let us go forth knowing that love is at our center, and enjoy one another's company at coffee hour. Go now in peace. Thank you.